They might disappear when you do your.
Okay, we're going to make a start, and I hope there's some people there listening. We're going to give you our best shot at this. So, I'm Gill Haigh, I'm Managing Director at Cumbria Tourism, and for those of you that don't know, Cumbria Tourism is essentially the tourist board for the county, responsible for promoting the county to visitors domestically and internationally, but also for supporting the tourism hospitality sector businesses within the county. And I'm joined by Dan Visser, who I will let introduce himself.
Hello, yes, Dan Visser. I am one of Gill's non-exec directors here at Cumbria Tourism, and I'm also the sales and marketing director for the Langdale Estate, which is the holiday resort right in the centre of the Lake District between Chapel Star and Elterwater, and also on the board of trustees for the Lake District Foundation.
So what we're going to do is really talk to you about what the last 18 months has meant for us as a sector in terms of being forced in many ways to change and to pick up new ways of working. A lot of these new ways of working and adaptations were either happening, beginning to happen, or were planned. Some weren't. And some of it we have really had to just be innovative and really sort of think outside the box. But interestingly, so many of those adaptations that we've had to make have become part of our day-to-day operations and working. Some are hybrid now. And looking forward, there are a number of challenges that are facing the sector, whether that's around sustainability, whether it's around labour supply, whether it's around transportation, difficulties of transportation, getting people to and from work, affordable housing. So again, I think digital technology is going to be really important to us as a sector, in not just digital technology, technology as a whole, in how we innovate and maximise and adapt to address some of those challenges, but also to seize a lot of the opportunities. And I just love that phrase, never waste a crisis. I, for some reason, seem to have spent half a lifetime working in industries where there has been crisis after crisis. I remember one of my very good bosses once saying to me, Jill, there's no such thing as a wasted opportunity, never waste a crisis. So I just, I smile when I see that. So just moving forwards, I think the hotel and the accommodation sector has been a really interesting one over the last 18, 12 months. In fact, with Dan here, who is probably in our county, one of the leaders in terms of using technology to support the customer experience, but in the customer journey. I don't think that's necessarily been the case across all of the sector, but I think there's been a lot of catching up that's been going on, which has been forced, if you like, by COVID, Dan.
I think it's certainly been accelerated by COVID. There's the opportunity to adopt a lot of the technology that we have done in the last 2 years has been there in various different formats for a while. And a lot of us have been on that journey already and may have had some of these changes that we've made in the pipeline. That pipeline has gone from sort of 5 years down to a year in many, many cases, and it's certainly the case for us.
Just tell us, Dan, about some of the kinds of things that you yourselves have done, but also that you've seen some of your peers doing.
So when we reopened after the first lockdown, the distancing was the big thing, and to reduce touch points or give our guests the opportunity to reduce the touch points should they want to, depending on how COVID confident they were coming back to visit hospitality businesses and particularly for accommodation providers who were the first to open. So some of the things we adopted were check-in online. Now we've done check-in online for aeroplanes for years. We're way behind the curve on that one. So the option to check in online. With an aeroplane, you've paid for your flight before you check in, so it's relatively straightforward. With hotel and accommodation, traditionally some rates and some breaks, some bookings are prepaid, some aren't, and traditionally, particularly with serviced accommodation, you will often have a bill to pay at the end. So how does that work? So that has to be overcome. Then, of course, you've got your physical arrival. If I've checked in online, if I then got to go and pick up a key from someone, well, I might as well have checked in because I'm still having that contact that we're trying to give people the choice to avoid. So what we did was implement some technology that was already there to send keys to people's mobile phones, to their smartphones. But to do that, we had to upgrade the locks with some low energy Bluetooth technology and have a desktop application available where we could then go and select a booking, select a mobile phone number, and push a specific key to it. We also adopted something really simple as with our self-catering units, put a key in a post box. I mean, luckily they're all on one site and security is not a problem. But on the changeover day, just put a key in a post box and someone can just go and pick it up. And then if you do all that for check-in, where somebody is nervous about an interaction, of course, then you need to be able to enable that for checkout as well. And particularly where you've got a bill to pay, to enable that choice to pay online or over the telephone is absolutely key to be able to circle that off. Otherwise, the first part of that choice that you've given people is spoiled by the last part of that choice.
Thanks, and I know that yourselves and others have also, worked really hard as well to encourage people to plan ahead and book ahead, which has been a key phrase from the industry throughout the last 18 months. But that's also allowed opportunities for people to book some of the experiences that they might want to have whilst they're staying at the hotel, in terms of, whether they want a newspaper to their room, whether they want to have a spa treatment while they're there. And I guess in many ways that's beneficial for you to know in advance what people want from their experience whilst they're with you.
It is, and it certainly helps with planning our resources more efficiently. And in the light of the recruitment crisis, which we're going to talk about later, being able to plan those resources in advance and be able to let people know well in advance where the spaces are. So, if somebody's got an extended stay and they want to have dinner, well, the best time to have dinner is on this particular time. Or if I want to go and have a spa treatment to visit the spa, this is when. And the same goes for the visitor attractions around us, to be able to partner with some of those visitor attractions and say, in order that you don't miss out, the best time to go and get on a boat, say, I want to be there cruises is at this particular time. So to have all that information available to help guests plan ahead, because the last thing we want is guests to come, have a stay, but not being able to do the things they want, creates a poor destination experience, and that's not a world-class visitor experience.
Yeah. I'm just moving us down through some of the bullet points that are on the slide, but clearly engagement with your guests during that sort of 18-month period. We did it very much from a destination perspective, where we really wanted to keep the kind of the inspiration and desire for a holiday and an experience really sort of front of mind for people. So we kind of used a lot of digital technology and video and blogging and the like in order to encourage people to think about us and think about booking with us in the future. And you guys did that very effectively.
Yeah, we've adopted a lot of partnership working with the experiences around us, and we've always done that as part of our content for social and for marketing. But that content, in terms of encouraging people to visit, also needs to come right down to the actual visit itself, and enable people to plan and really make the most of their break without being disappointed. There was enough stories and reports of people that came to visit, couldn't get a beer, couldn't get a meal, couldn't get in here, couldn't get in there, and that's that's completely counterintuitive to the way we want people to come and enjoy their holidays.
Yeah,
They're doing it all online for the hospitality industry specifically is also counterintuitive to everything that we've been teaching our staff for the last, well, certainly in my 25-year career. It's all about those experiences. It's about the difference between me and my competitor. We can build the best hotel in the world. It's that warm welcome, that smile, that fantastic service. And we're giving our guests the opportunity to bypass that service.
Yeah.
So it is counterintuitive. So your digital experience has to be as good as, for people that choose that experience, it has to be the best experience possible.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we all learned very quickly last year was that we had to, that that in many ways in the past, you know, what really mattered to visitors was that it was a really fantastic, smooth experience, and they did get to do the things that they wanted to. They made their memories, but actually feeling safe became the most important thing for our guests and for our visitors. And the technology allowed us in many ways to support that and do that. And then, as you'll see as we go through the presentation, a lot of that is here to stay. I just want to touch on business tourism because that's an area of business that we've lost for a long time. And actually, you were doing really well as a business in that. How have things changed for you in terms of business tourism, and what tools are you now using to rebuild that?
I think businesses now have, and I think we're going to, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, all these things have given businesses the opportunity to do things differently. And I think the adoption of that has obviously been huge throughout the last 2 years and a half. However, what we're seeing is that businesses do want to get back together in person. They do want to have meetings, but they'll still have people within their organisation who might not be comfortable. Now, the cynics would say, well, if they're not comfortable, just don't turn up. But businesses do. We all need to be far more inclusive. So this kind of hybrid way of doing things and creating hybrid meetings is really, really important. Also, the people who would have traditionally booked larger business meetings, come and had a meeting with you, come and had a look around the venue, maybe can't do that quite as readily. So using sort of virtual tools to showcase your product and showcase your space, that then people can come and have meetings in and come and be creative in is really important. And we've adopted some tools, and we've done a number of virtual show rounds and virtual meetings walking around the business. And sometimes it's adopting low tech like WhatsApp or FaceTime just to walk around the facilities with a meetings event organizer on the other end who can then send their people to you to a meeting with confidence.
Thanks, Dan. So if I just move us on, and we won't speak as much in depth about each of these slides, because I think what hopefully Dan's been able to give you there is a real flavour of the different tools and different ways in which we've been adapting. But I did just want to share a few examples from different parts of the industry. So Dan's mentioned the attraction sector and the experience sector and how closely they've been working with the accommodation providers. But Windermere Lake Cruises, I'm really happy to share this example from their perspective, where in the olden days, I call it BC, before COVID, in the olden days, I don't know whether that was the normal days or whether these are normal now, but anyway, in those days, if you wanted to go on these really great self-hire drives on Lake Windermere, then what you needed to do was basically rock up and queue for a self-hire boat. And most people would rock up sometime between 11 and 4, and undoubtedly during the summer period, bank holidays, weekends, a lot of people would find that they had queued and been unsuccessful in getting the boat. So their experience wasn't what we would want it to be. And then along came the COVID, and businesses were having to look at what the government advised and regulations and restrictions were, and how could they operate their businesses within that framework. So for Windermere Lake Cruises and other operators, it was about putting in these pre-booking systems with pre-allocated time slots. Now, that wasn't easy. I remember, some of the hard work and the long hours that went into that particular business. But they did it, and the visitors adapted really well to that new way of coming to the county and planning ahead and booking ahead. And if you hadn't, there was the opportunity to do it whilst you were there using QR codes. But actually what that did was that allowed that business to look at their available time slots through the day. And for us, the consumer, if you like, to look at the availability and time slots during the day and actually select the one that was either vacant or was most convenient to us. And it's actually led to increased bookings and increased revenue. So that's a really successful example of something that wasn't there before, that had to go in last year, but actually has been retained because it's actually increased productivity.
Yeah, I think particularly in that instance, it pushes it into a, you don't arrive at a hotel and queue up for a room and just hope one's available. Sometimes you do, but generally you don't. And certainly what it's helped with visitor attractions like Windermere Lake Cruise is it's spread the day out. So people can see that there's nothing available in a certain time slot when they would have maybe just rocked up and queued, and they just book the time slots either side. So it's really helped spread the day out and take the pressure off those queues. And of course, that gives the visitor a better experience as well, because they don't have to queue. They can turn up, they know the boat's ready, and off they go. So I think that's been really helpful. It's been a positive.
And a good point in there, it helps the staff as well, because actually happy customers is happy equals happy staff. So that's
and
good.
The staff can focus on the customers in front of them and not worry about the ones in the queue.
So another example that I just wanted to share with you is very much around the cultural and heritage and events sector. I mean, I think the cultural and heritage sector with their indoor attractions were some of the last to be able to open, and certainly to be able to open with live audiences. So what do you do? What could they do? And I'm just thinking, we're coming up to Halloween now, and I'm thinking back to Muncaster Castle last Halloween over on the west coast of Cumbria. Halloween is probably their busiest week of the year, and just at the beginning of that week, the local tier restrictions came into place. Now I live in Lancashire, so that meant that I couldn't go and visit Muncaster Castle as a visitor. I could visit it through work, but I couldn't visit it as a visitor. And so there was significant income and significant worry loss happening around that time. And what Muncaster did was, as part of that event, they have live performances. So what they did was they put those events online and allowed people to book tickets and feel as though they were there within that experience. We know lots of art galleries and lots of performing arts organisations within the county who provide live streaming so that you could watch it that way as well. And just the other side of the slide is we as Cumbria Tourism and Forestry England and other partners had just arranged a really big Dark Skies week that again was totally affected by the local restrictions. In fact, the first Dark Skies week was affected because it was just as COVID restrictions were starting, but the second one was the local restrictions. So again, we moved those events online, and what we did was we tried to get to the audiences that had booked and move them across to online to inspire them, to educate them, I guess, but also to encourage them to really get hooked and think, well, actually, I can't make it this time in person, but my goodness, I can't wait to get there next time. And certainly our forward bookings for our next Dark Skies event are very strong. Another area where certainly I know within the businesses, within the rooms at Dan's Hotels, there would have been a lot of literature previously, and that was largely removed from a lot of the rooms. But equally, we as an industry, as a destination management organisation, have relied a lot on print for our publications, our main holiday guide, attractions guide, adventure guide, Dogs Love Cumbria guide, and a lot of the touch points where we would have had that literature were closed. So what do you do? So we were very fortunate to be approached by a company based in Carlisle who came to us and said, actually, we want to work with you on a really innovative digital publication to support your adventure guide. So what they've done is they've worked with us to put video and content and really bring it alive, that we've then been able to take out and share across a whole range of channels. And that's been a really interesting one for us, because clearly the cost is significantly less than print and distribution. And for that particular target audience around adventure, they're much more amenable to having something in a digital format than might be other publications where that's not quite as true. But certainly for us, that's one that we're looking at. And we're also looking at doing something similar to go out to the group travel trade as well, because we think that this is a format that will work for them, because we'll be able to, a bit like Dan's show rounds for business tourism, we'll be able to show them the experiences and let them really immerse themselves in those experiences in a multi-dimensional way rather than just two-dimensional. Just conscious of time, so I'm rabbiting a little bit. Businesses have had to pivot last year, no doubt about it, and many businesses, many hotels, attractions, food and drink operators, restaurants, decided that they would sell their product online, so for future opportunities, for future times. But also we know that a lot of people choose to come and holiday here, but also buy local produce whilst they're here. So that might be that they're buying Grasmere gingerbread, it might be that they're buying local gins, and so local beauty products, etc. So what we did as Cumbria Tourism is we created a virtual marketplace that gave you opportunities to purchase all of those things, but also to purchase future experiences, future holidays, and to buy vouchers to do that. And we took that back out to our significant visitor database, both around the UK but also internationally, and allowed people to support the tourism sector during last year by buying from a distance, things that they can either consume there and then in their homes, or things that they could give as gifts or use themselves in the future. And that's certainly something that worked incredibly well, and something that we are and have retained. So it's another advantage for us.
It is. We also traditionally with our travel trade, familiarisation trips are the big thing with the travel trade. Everybody loves a free holiday, so inviting people up for a free holiday to come and experience a visitor attraction is a very easy sell. Doing it virtually, it isn't quite such an easy sell, but we have some really strong success keeping our Indian market alive by doing virtual familiarisation trips, where we actually showcase different parts of the Lake District and different operators showcasing their part of the lakes as well as their product. And we've really managed to keep some of those international markets warm, but by delivering up-to-date, relevant content and just having live conversations with them has been really helpful. Now there's a much longer lead-in cycle now for those markets coming back, but when they do come back, we should still be at the forefront of their minds, even though other destinations might open up for actual travel before us.
Thanks, Dan. I'm going to ask Dan to talk through this one a little bit for us, because we all know that the charity sector was badly affected last year. And we just want to touch particularly on a local charity, the Lake District Foundation, which is very much about helping to protect the landscape and working with the visitor sector, tourism sector, in order to give back. They were quite innovative, weren't they, just before COVID happened? And you were involved in that.
Yeah, so we've at where we work, at Langdale, we've been supporting the Lake District Foundation, particularly around local projects where the effects of large number of visitors can be seen and are fairly clear. And looking after the landscape is absolutely key. Without the landscape, we wouldn't exist, and most of our visitors wouldn't come here without the landscape, which is is a world-class landscape. And so a lot of our visitors, we want to give our visitors the opportunity to give back a bit, and so it's really important. So we were part of a trial project where we installed visitor giving contactless points, and ours was in our pub right by the bar, so people could, while they were waiting at the bar, they could read a little bit of information about what the opportunity is. They could just swipe their card contactless, and there you go, they've made a little. And that was before dropping coins or alongside dropping coins into a collecting tin, because of course as more and more people went contactless, our pub doesn't take cash anymore, so the idea of having a thing for their change is outdated. So we were doing that, but of course what we found then is that when we reopened post-COVID and right up until quite recently, we had to do table service. So it's all very well having a contactless point by the bar, but if you've got to do table service, nobody ever goes past it. So we're currently investigating other ways through QR codes, text to donate, and so on. So we're currently looking at ways to replace that contact point with our visitors. But one of the contact points we have had for a long time with our visitors is an automatic opt-in when they arrive for their holiday, or to have a small payment put on their bill that goes towards landscape protection. Now, when people were checking in with a person in front of them, checking in with a member of the team, and the member of the team said, "Are you happy with that?" Face to face, virtually everybody said, "Yeah, that's fine." They may ask a couple of questions. Where does the money go? What's this for? The member of the team will explain it to them, and that's fine. The minute we move to online check-in, it's really easy when you don't have somebody in front of you just to tick the no box. So one of the unintended consequences of giving people the opportunity to check in online is the amount of people opting out, from going from 1 or 2% went to well over half of the people. Majority of people opted out just because it was a tick box and it was very, very easy. So we've had to revert back to technology to then look at that customer journey, or that guest journey, as they travel through the check-in process, to make sure that we give them information in terms of interactive content to explore, where does this money go? What's this all about? It's not just a tick in a box. It's a exploration of the value of the landscape, the fragility of the landscape, and how they can actually support the landscape and get involved. And what we've found is, since we've changed that customer journey, and we continue to do so, the number of people opting out has dropped massively, and now we've got more than half opting in or not opting out, and that's continuing to grow as we change that customer journey and make it more interactive and provide some really important information to them.
Thanks, Dan. I'm recognising that we're running a little bit behind time, so we'll skip over this, because I think everybody's, it's not a very flattering photograph, that one, is it? But I think everybody's, probably had the same experience around some of the pluses as well as some of the downsides of Zoom. But interestingly, what it really links to is this next slide, which is that here in the county we've got clearly a real shortage in terms of labour supply shortage. And we are very much a customer-facing industry, but I hope what you've heard today is some of the ways in which some of the businesses have been able to use technology to adapt their businesses so that there is more use of technology, which is helping to reduce some of the workforce demands. But also, I know for people like Dan, some of your services don't necessarily mean people need to be actually on the site.
Yeah, So exactly where there are those touch points, that's really important. You can order your food from an app on the table, but you still need a fantastic experience from the waiter to bring you the food, to answer your questions about allergens, to be able to ask them, what's the weather going to be like tomorrow? Where's the best place to go for a walk? All these interactions are really, really important in hospitality. They can make the difference between an okay stay or a nice stay and a really fantastic experience. But we can also give flexibility to our colleagues who may be working reservations or marketing or accounts, or work across different departments, where part of that role can really bring in some flexibility. And COVID has again accelerated what was an existing plan for us. So most of my reservations team will now work partly from home and partly from the site. Better work-life balance, reduce commuting time, reduce carbon associated with the business, enable them to spend more time with their family. So that's been a really positive outcome.
And just to finish, and Dan's talked about reducing carbon there. Just to finish, we may have learned a lot through the last challenge. We still have challenges ahead of us, and there's some terrific work that's already happening in the county, particularly around supporting sustainable tourism. And technology's got a really big part to play on that. But perhaps that's a presentation for another day, and something for us to look forward to. So hopefully that's been helpful. It's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. But we're very happy to talk to you afterwards, or to take any questions either now or at some point in the future. So thanks for listening to us.